All right, so we're left with all these emotions that need to be taken care of, or they'll take care of us. And you'll find that you can download a list, and this list would be smiley faces, and I'll also have another list that's more comprehensive for you to start becoming more familiar with how to identify your emotions. That's really important. And you can do this on your own, or you can do it with the help of a support group and or a counselor, which I would encourage you to do. Okay, so let's switch to the next concept that can help explain what happens if you don't deal with this. We call this the Titanic metaphor. So here we are, we've got this iceberg, or the iceberg model. And here's the Titanic, and it's just chugging along, everybody's happy, and they see that there's an iceberg up ahead. But what they don't see is the danger of the iceberg, how huge it is. So all they see is the top, which is all the society sees about someone. Let's say this person's got mental health issues, or it's an addict. All they see is 10% of the picture of the whole person, right? Same with the iceberg. We only see 10% of the enormity of this iceberg. We don't see all of these other hidden things that are contributing to dysfunctional behavior or codependency or addiction or mental health issues. Okay, so let's go back to the Titanic. He doesn't know while he's going, the captain of the ship doesn't see how huge it is. And so he hits ground, and he starts destructing. And for us as humans, all of us, the key emotions, the things that we want to stay away from is fear and abandonment. We are all scared that we will be abandoned. It goes back to attachment issues, and if you wanted to study psychology more, you would find how important that is. But none of us want to be alone. And when we feel alone, what occurs is shame. Because remember, we talked about how everybody has it, no one wants to talk about it, and if we don't deal with it, it's going to deal with us because it has power. So you see this word toxic, it means poison. So the shame is poisonous for us if we don't deal with the fear and the abandonment. And then what happens is we develop these codependent traits, which if you knew me, you wouldn't like me. So I'm going to put this facade on, and I'm going to have control over you because I'm suffering so much. I don't want you to feel this way. And then the next step is, if you don't treat this codependency, these enabling issues, this dysfunctional behaviors, that's how addiction happens. That's how addiction happens, how dysfunctional behavior happens, how the anxiety and depression gets out of control. And then guess what? The world only sees that. They don't see all this pain and suffering that's underneath all of that. But this is the stuff that needs to be taken care of. We got to get to the root of the problem here. Make sense? Okay, so I'd like to show you another concept here. And there's a man, a psychologist by the name of Abraham Maslow, and he came up with this hierarchy of needs. And the hierarchy of needs is such that can kind of explain how and why we do certain things, and how come safety and being in a place where you can talk about these things is imperative. Otherwise, you're not going to get better. Okay, so let's start here with the bottom. And in order for someone to feel like they can start opening up and discussing these problems of shame and fear of abandonment and all the codependent behaviors, is first we have to have our basic needs met. So at the bottom of this pyramid, if we don't have a house and a safe place to be, then we can't go further. We also have to have oxygen and food. And some say sex as well. We can live with it or not, depending on what's going on in your world. But we know that housing, oxygen, and food is imperative. And if those needs aren't met, we can't move on to the next need, which the next need is safety. So we don't feel safe if we don't have a house to live in, if we can't breathe and we don't have food to eat. And unfortunately, that's what happens when people come into counseling. They may have their basic needs met or not, because I work with a lot of people that are in domestic violence. And before we can even start dealing with issues, we've got to deal with the housing issue and how to get them food, how to get them transportation to work, that kind of thing. But when they come into counseling, they have no place where they feel safe. So our jobs as counselors is to be that place where people feel safe and say, we're not going to judge you. Whatever you say is just part of your story. And we're going to accept you the way we are because we're all afraid someone's not going to love us or that we're not going to be liked. And we all have that desire for love and acceptance. And once we feel safe, then we can start feeling loved and like we belong to something. So even that simple act of coming to counseling, having a safe place to be, even if the rest of your world is out of control and you don't have control over those people that you love, or maybe you're having financial problems or kid problems or parent problems, whatever the issue is, at least in the setting of counseling, you feel like you belong somewhere and somebody understands you. Someone's there to hear you and help you with those issues. Once that's done, then our self-esteem starts to improve. And that's the value of counseling. And then ultimately, one of the biggest questions people ask when they come into counseling is, I want to know what the purpose is for my life. Why am I even here? So Abraham Maslow says that the last rung after you've been able to feel safe because you have housing, oxygen, food, and then you feel loved, and then your self-esteem starts getting better, then we get to this place called self-actualization. And that takes time after you've worked through all these other needs on the pyramid. And I believe there's a fancy description for self-actualization, but I believe that we're self-actualized when we are doing that which we were meant to be here for. And we feel good about it. These are my gifts, and these are the things that I'm going to share with others. And that's the purpose for this whole teaching, is for you to have your life different from the way it is and be the person you were meant to be. And things will feel better.